Fans, we are back live on thehannibaltv.com with another edition of the Shooting from the Hip podcast. Today, we'll be looking at the induction pending of Paul Heyman, Paul Lee Dangerously, to the WWE Hall of Fame from the perspective of the individual who worked with and for Mr. Heyman and knows him quite well. I am talking about the co-host of this show that recently hit a year milestone, and that would be none other than the king of the streets. He is the reigning and defending soon hardcore road trip heavyweight champion of the world, and that would, of course, be Kingpin Angel Medina.
Oh, thanks again, player. Thank you. I appreciate the great intro and stuff. But I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty happy for Paul. I mean, regardless of what happened in this business with, the shenanigans, I mean, it's well-deserved, man. I mean, the guy's a genius. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And besides that fucking Thunderbolt Patterson, I was like, who the fuck is he? I mean, I'm pretty savvy on everything in wrestling, but that threw a swerve. I never heard of the motherfucker, ever.
I think he... if you look into his career, he certainly made his mark mostly in the 70s and about up until 83, 84. But he was somewhat notorious thereafter for trying to organize a union for pro wrestling. He was involved in that. And he was also talking about some of the racial inequities in the business that got him some heat. But he appeared on an episode of the Morton Downey Jr. show about wrestling where David Schultz was on there, and they were talking to a guy named Jim Wilson, who was an ex-wrestler who wrote a book called Chokehold, and he was very critical of the business. And that, if you haven't seen that episode, it's readily available on YouTube. You should check that out. I think personally, knowing his work from Florida and Georgia, that he's deserving. I'm glad to see it, especially since he's still alive. And recently we lost Ole Anderson, and he was involved in that angle that started the Four Horsemen off. But all that notwithstanding, we're hearing a lot about some of the ones that haven't been announced yet. And I'm thinking a lot about Bad News Allen, Bad News Brown. His daughter, Frances, has been vocal on social media that why isn't my dad in? And I can't argue with her.
But look, the thing is this. Okay, I totally understand what you're putting them over, but I'm the rough edge, the dull edge of the knife, man. I mean, the thing is this, man. Thunderbolt Patterson, I don't know the motherfucker from Adam. The stories I heard from when I found out he was being inducted, and the stories I heard watching a lot of the videos with other legends, like Demolition, and so he was a drizzling shits. Fucking Jim Cornette said he was a drizzling shits. A lot of people are saying he was a drizzling shits. I just don't see any type of if anybody should have been inducted, is Bad News Brown, Bad News Allen. He was in the Stampede Wrestling. He's a bronze judo Olympian. The guy has a lot of accolades. So for him to and again, I'm not in the committee to determine who should be eligible or not. But if you look at it from a fan's perspective. Look, I've been in the business for over 30-something years, and I was like, who the fuck is Thunderbolt Patterson? And I'm pretty savvy in the business. So why out of him compared to Bad News Brown, or Bad News Allen? I mean, I saw a couple matches. I said, let me find out who this guy is and see what he's all about. Yeah, it was Ole's friend. Ole was giving him a push, but when I watched the match, he sucked. He didn't. He wasn't a staple in the business. He didn't make any impact to revolutionize the professional wrestling business. I mean, Tony Atlas, Rocky Johnson. I mean, if you want to talk about black people in this business that made impacts for the black community, those are the top dogs. But him, I'm not knocking him. It's just I don't know who the fuck he is. Why should he be inducted? What does he have that to justify that he deserves a spot into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I mean, I hear you, and I agree that Bad News Allen definitely needs to be in there. You know, in addition to all the time he basically kept the Stampede territory afloat. He had a great run in the WWF with Hogan. He did some work on TV with him, but had, a series of house show runs with him, and a fabulous, legit athlete, like you said. But I think this highlights some of the controversy with the Hall of Fame in general. We used to know, and I think we discussed this last year. It was a decision of one person in the past. Now, not so much, but there's no objective criteria out there as to who who gets in, who stays out, what's the timing, whatever. I just personally, from a historical perspective and the fact that the man is still alive, maybe I'm a softie, but I think they could have done a lot worse. The problem also being
that is worse.
With that, well, I guess
that's just my opinion. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. You can't sell it to me. Again, I'm looking at, like I said, Bad News Allen, bro, Bad News Brown, Canada, Stampede Wrestling was about to whoop Andre the Giant's ass. There's a lot of stories and a lot of, he has a lineage, a history. But like I said, this Thunderbolt Patterson, even when I watched him, he was just like a watered down junkyard dog. I mean, there was nothing different about him, nothing like, wow, like an Eric Embry, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Did you watch his 70s stuff from Florida?
Oh yeah, that's all I was watching. Yeah, that's all I found, and and then he became a pastor and stuff. But I was watching a lot of his matches, and I mean, if he gets mad, I don't give a fuck. I don't know the guy from Adam. I'm just saying the guy. I don't think he deserves it, but that's me. Who the fuck am I?
Well, it's not, it doesn't, it's not a matter of who are you or who am I or whatever. There's just no objective criteria. And the other point that I wanted to make is when are they going to get off their wallets and build an actual physical Hall of Fame? I mean, Lord knows they have the money for it. They could put it right in Orlando by the Performance Center. It would be basically a license to print money. I'm thinking a Hall of Fame would mean a lot more than, they get the plaque, they get the ceremony, they get the payout, they get the Legends deal, I guess. It would mean a lot more if there was an actual structure where fans could go and perhaps in the historical wing and other areas, the celebrity wing, whatever, provide an opportunity for fans to educate themselves, the young people.
But you know what we need to do, just curiosity, we need to sit down and have an interview with somebody who was involved in the Hall of Fame committee, regardless if it was somebody from, let's say like 2003, he was part of that, or, to figure out who was going to be in the Hall of Fame, because we need to find out, just curiosity, how do you figure this out? Do you sit at a table and just, throw out some names and you just, vote on it, or do you go?
Vince.
Huh?
That was Vince McMahon before, from what
I know, but I figured we need to talk. But we just need to know, at least ask somebody who's kind of familiar with it. I mean, just like American football, you look at stats, you look at yardage, you look at contribution into the game, in the business, like Mondo McMichaels and, Lawrence Taylor and all those great athletes. You sit down and you go, okay, what did he do for the business? What did he offer? And then they said, and again, I don't know how that works. It'd be great to talk to somebody who has that knowledge to just break it down. Maybe they might convince me and I go, okay, now I see it.
Well, it would certainly add to, I think, two things: build a physical Hall of Fame and talk about whatever criteria. You look at Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. That's done by ballot. Mm-hmm. That's done by voting, and there's some there, but politics are at play there as well. Some guys are not on the ballot, some guys are taken off the ballot, some teams, some ladies, whatever. So at least for the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, there's a process. For this, it's a mystery. Yeah, let's put that on the list of to-dos to look into. Especially with McMahon gone, how are these decisions made this year? But I fully support, for the record, the campaign of Frances Bad News' daughter to get her dad on the Hall of Fame next year for sure, amongst several other ones that I could name off the top of my head.
Yeah, I hear you, man. But let me hear what you got off the top of your head.
Well, right from Jump Street, I would like to see Demolition in.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Notwithstanding the heat that Bill Eadie had with Vince McMahon. Vince is gone. We should start looking, and they're a homegrown product that absolutely exceeded expectations when they were conceived. They were thought of as Road Warrior ripoffs, and they were arguably more successful than the Legion of Doom. Definitely more successful in the WWF. So that's one of the big ones as far as I'm concerned. But British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith. There's another one.
There's another one. Absolutely. So I mean, yeah, I mean, those guys are, legitimately deserve a spot. Davey Boy Smith. I mean, the Heart Foundation, not a part of that Heart Foundation at the end. The British Bulldogs, all that other stuff. I mean, it's like I said, these guys had some meat to the bone. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't understand why. Again, I keep going back to Thunderbolt Pat. I just don't. Sometimes when you see somebody get inducted, you just want to know the why.
I agree 5,000%. So that's going to be an issue that continues to be enduring, and I know this will be a contentious one, but if you look at contribution to the business and career in terms of office and running successful territories, and I know he had his detractors and he's controversial to say the least, but I'd like to see Ole Anderson finally go in. As far as I'm concerned, he should have been in with the Horsemen years ago. And that
but due to the fact that I guess again I don't know the story, but the heat between him and Ric Flair, blah blah blah. I mean, and sometimes because of the Four Horsemen, sometimes it's not the faction but the time. Like to me, the Four Horsemen will always be Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, J.J. Dillon. That's to me that's the Lex Luger, Barry Windham. I visualize that, but when you look at the Paul Roma, Chris Benoit time frame, I'm like, not even the Sting. Even when Sting was part, I was like, yeah.
That was a short-term angle. We're gonna talk about that in the weeks to come, Paul Roma, because he is going to be making an appearance for the first time in Ontario, Canada in decades, and that is at the June 29th Napanee Schools Out Slam. But before we get into that and your involvement in that card, your historic involvement in that card, I want to talk about just briefly, AEW is on a current tour of Canada.
Oh, yeah.
They were in Ottawa, Ontario on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. That's when you kind of like threw me to the side so you can go to the show and just postpone the show. I understand.
You know how it goes, eh? You know how it goes. They only need you.
You're like, right? Blacks in the back of the bus.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Tremendous. Anyway, there you go again. Double whammy. Thanks for joining us, folks. No. I'm going to try and collect my thoughts. They were in Ottawa, Ontario on Saturday for a Collision taping, and I must admit it was the first ever AEW show that I went to, and I was thoroughly impressed with the production, the set, the TV product, at least sitting in the ringside area, looked to be extremely tight. The wrestling, I enjoyed a number of matches. There were some I didn't care for, and I got to be honest. The first two women's Ring of Honor matches, you're dealing with very green. From our perspective, I was with Hannibal, of course. Very green workers, and there are a couple of the guys on the roster there, the 185 pounders like the Daniel Garcias or whatever that I don't really understand, but that's, I'm not the target demo.
Now, I have a question. How was the audience? Because I know I've seen some maybe EW shows when they kind of took the audience and put them on one side of the building just to make it look full. Was it really packed at the in Canada, or they had to move some people around to give it that full arena look?
Well, it was at the Canadian Tire Center, and there were sections tarped off for sure. There was Hameen's Tarp Emporium in full effect. Shout out to Bin Hameen. But they had about 3,200 in there. And the Canadian Tire Center is a huge venue. But not only that, it's on the edge of Ottawa. So you have to take a bit of a drive to get there. Then it's $25 for parking now, and et cetera, et cetera. But the crowd that was there, they were, with a couple of exceptions, notably the initial Ring of Honor women's matches, they were into it. It was a hot crowd, and I personally enjoyed it for my first ever AEW house show. What I want to mention now, though, is the next stop on the tour is this Wednesday, March 20th. It'll be a super show with a Dynamite and a Rampage taping in Toronto, Ontario at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. And look at that poster. Moxley, Ospreay, you've got Jericho, Swerve, who I've never seen live. Looking forward to that. Tony Storm in the middle. And of course, this show will be main evented, I believe, by a last man standing between Adam Edge, or Don't Call Me Edge, Copeland, and Christian Cage. And I'm pleased that AEW have offered us an opportunity to go to that show and cover it as well. And I'll be doing that solo tomorrow. So fans, I'll be streaming a lot of updates as the night goes on and giving you an unvarnished opinion on the show. But I got to be honest, Angel, I know I've been somewhat critical of the current product in the past, but I think this company is not getting the fairest of shakes by some people on the internet. And I look at, the constant barrage of negativity and criticism that Jim Cornette lobbies at AEW, and I'm not of the opinion it's necessarily fair all the time now.
Well, the thing is that, I mean, when you, regardless of what kind of business you have, you can't focus on the people who are the haters, as long as you have the right business model and you're focusing on your company and trying to make everybody, successful and try to make money in this business. Now, Jim Cornette, everybody who's shitting on it, regardless of how they're shitting on it, if they keep their just focused and just continue what they're doing with live shows and great matches, and just focus and just stop hiring a lot of talent. Just because stop collecting wrestlers like action figures. I understand you're a mark for the wrestling, and I'm not saying that like mark like in a bad way, but if you're just trying to not blow your whole wad or just keep buying talent, not really using them because you only got they only got 3 TVs. Yeah, and you don't have enough room for all these wrestlers, then you just need to water it down, man. You got to get rid of some people. It's nothing personal. It's just say you're spending all this money, and if you're not using them, you're losing money.
Well, what do you think about their roster now with the recent signings in particular? You've got Ospreay, who I've never seen live. Again, he's on the poster for tomorrow. You've got the recent signing of Okada, who I must admit I'm not the most fluent Japanese wrestling aficionado, but he was the man over in Japan, and apparently aligned himself with, or the Young Bucks have aligned.
Is that Rainmaker?
Yes.
Yeah,
Had all those classic matches against Kenny Omega. And then what about the big payout apparently that went to one Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné, who debuted, I believe it was last week, came out and cut a promo. She's there at AEW now, hoping, I guess, to bolster their women's division. What do you think she's going to do? Do you think she's going to move the needle, or?
But the problem is, even if she moves the needle, it's just using her, man. The point. Look at Paige. They brought in Paige. They probably paid tons of money, and I rarely saw her. What is she doing? Hanging out in the back? Is she a producer? Is she an agent? She has, a neck injury, which she says she was cleared, but still, you're still susceptible for that injury. So I'm just saying, I'm not knocking Sasha Banks. What's her new name?
Mercedes Moné. She's now instead of the legit boss, she's the CEO.
Oh, anyway. Monet, like I said, man, she's a hell of a talent. you know. But again, you have to use it, get your money's worth. And if they just use it for a couple matches, you know what I'm saying? Like, also, let's say they were using it for 4 months. All of a sudden, the shit is hot. And all of a sudden, whew, dry spell. Like, all of a sudden, where the fuck she go? And you've seen that happen when you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, well, what happened to so and so? You know, and then you see them once in a while. And that's the thing, man. Hey, make your money. If you don't have to wrestle and you're just collecting a check, all power to you. But from a business standpoint, yo, just you got to use this girl so you could definitely put asses in seats and move that needle. You know, you could, if just because you move the needle, you have to keep it moving. It doesn't stay still. Just like driving a car, you hit the accelerator, yeah, you're moving the needle. But if you take your foot off the pedal, guess what? It goes down.
Well,
So
here's where I land on AEW in general terms. I think that the haters and the people that are hoping and counting the days down for the demise of AEW, first of all, that's not going to happen. Given the funding that we're talking about there, it could almost be a write-off for the Khan family. But I'm not sure how anyone can call themselves a wrestling fan and be hoping for the demise of a major company where you can make a good living, regardless if you're used properly or not. It's another place for the boys and girls to work. So why fans are out there on the internet proclaiming, you know, all their vitriol towards AEW is beyond me. And I think Bryan Danielson, there was a story about him recently where he said the majority of folks, the big majority of folks, even in WWE, are hoping that AEW makes a go of it. A monopoly in any business is not a good thing, as we saw by the recent settlement WWE paid out to MLW, that antitrust settlement. So
yeah,
I don't fall into that category. I'm older now. I understand maybe I don't get the video game style wrestling, as Jim Cornette says, but I'm not the target demo. I'm just appreciative that there's another major company with funding behind it like never before.
no, I agree. You know, and like I said, Jim Cornette is just a guy who just likes to, causes some issues. And like I said, he's knowledgeable. If he thinks this is the shits, that's his opinion. Respectfully, that's, he sees something that I don't see, and maybe he sees more. That's the reason why. Or he could be mad because they haven't reached out to him to facilitate his talents, So, but again, that's just me speculating. But the funny thing is that, AEW is a good brand. You have to have a competition to be successful, and AEW is a good competition for WWE, and hopefully, we can have one Monday Night War type of thing, just to keep us glued to the TV. You know what I'm saying?
When ratings were 3 times what they are now. But let's leave AEW by once again indicating tomorrow the Dynamite and Rampage Super Show. I'll be there covering it and providing frequent updates to the Hannibal TV viewers. We've asked to see if we could get an interview with one of the workers, so stay tuned on that. But at a minimum, we'll be there in the media portion covering the event.
Hopefully you can see Prince Nana and tell him, well, knowing it, every time I tell you to go say what's up, they're probably like, whatever, like, yeah, sure. That sometimes they act that way.
The security guy you pointed out, I think, was busy when I said hello from the Kingpin. But
he was getting coffee for one of the wrestlers.
Or taking care of the crowd control by the side where all the media folks were coming up and taking pictures and whatnot, or just doing his thing.
And was he still with Atlas Security? Did it say Atlas?
No,
okay.
No, it was AEW Security. They were all clearly marked as AEW Security. Look at this comment from Noah Baird. El Dandy for the Hall of Fame.
No.
Remember El Dandy? He's a jam up guy and a great wrestler. Remember that promo with Bret Hart?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. El Dandy.
I think he's joking because of the humorous nature of that promo with Bret.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
Probably the funniest thing Bret Hart ever did. But before we get to the Paul Heyman discussion, I want to take some time to talk about the Napanee Schools Out Slam, Great North Wrestling's next show, slated for Saturday, June the 29th, of course, in Napanee, Ontario. And we've got some excellent matches planned, and some newcomers to Great North Wrestling, one being the return out of retirement of WWF legend and a great guy, Mario Mancini. He's going to be wrestling his very last match in Napanee on June the 29th. Also coming, I announced this on Saturday, will be the WWF legend. You talked about him earlier, Pretty Paul Roma of the Young Stallions.
I like him in Power and Glory.
Power and Glory. I was just going to say that. I always put that team over. I usually forget Pretty Wonderful with Paul Orndorff, but they were a great team too in WCW.
I like Power and Glory.
I agree.
That was just, I don't know. That's the, I mean, he was great with all those teams, but the one I like that stood out was Power and Glory.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And if you talk to Paul and watch some of his interviews, they definitely were over enough to get the belts. And for some reason, because Vince didn't come up with it, Paul indicates that they weren't doing anything with him. They weren't doing anything with Hercules. They were friends, put them together, came up with this. It clicked. Add Slick, one of the greatest managers of that golden era. They had a lightning in a bottle there, but again, you know better than I the politics of the wrestling business.
Yeah, if it wasn't my idea, then it sucks, right?
Yep. Yeah, cut their run short. So he'll be there. He'll be doing a meet and greet, and we're working on a Q&A with fans for him as well. We've got a lot. Just
a quick question: Why doesn't he not wrestle? Is he injured, or he just kind of stopped?
I don't think he had some health issues. He was wrestling regularly until about 2017, 2018. One thing I will say about Paul, that physique that he had back in the day, he is still in tremendous physical condition. And I'm not sure that he is out of the ring for good, but he definitely keeps himself in top-notch shape.
He looks it.
And could do it again. But I'm excited to have him, not only because I'm a Horseman fan and I have opinions about that, which run contrary to the popular misconception or popular conception of his tenure in the Four Horsemen, but he, again, hasn't been in Ontario, Canada in a very long time. So looking forward to that big time. Before we talk about your match, I wanted to mention this big announcement that I made yesterday on social media. This man, the prodigy, Nathan Banner, is returning to Great North Wrestling. Fans historical fans of Great North Wrestling will remember the prodigy from many matches that he had, most notably against Hannibal in Ottawa, approximately 2021-ish, or sorry, a little bit before that, and several other great opponents, Wes Briscoe, Sexy Eddie. But this man is a very big man. We're talking about 6'6" and 330 pounds, and he can really bring it in the ring. So I'm excited to have him on the show as well. I'm going to no-sell whatever that is.
That's him, the Geico caveman.
Well, if you haven't, check out how he moves and his athleticism for a big man. He is going to be an instant threat for any title in Great North Wrestling.
Nah, yeah, he ain't going to be no threat to me. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, brother. That's how I see it.
Well, don't get ahead of yourself, Kingpin, because your first opponent in Great North Wrestling, which we talked about on the last show, will be none other than Big Daddy Roy, another very big athletic man. And GNW has been known historically to be a big man territory. I mean, we have our cruiserweights and high flyers and whatnot, but definitely a big man's territory. And
the thing is that introducing, like, you talk about all these great Canadian wrestlers, but you keep messing up his name. I mean, if he was so well known, you should be pronouncing his name correctly. Big Daddy Oreo. That's the correct way of pronouncing it. So get it right, man. I mean, if you're putting over your talent.
Well, that's of course not his name. He is Big Daddy D Roy. But I've got a little treat for you, Kingpin. He's heard about your comments,
Absolutely.
and he sent in a promo that I'm going to play for everyone now to respond to that. And the other feature of this discussion, you're an ECW original. You're a hardcore competitor. Well, this match for your hardcore road trip title will be contested under, I'm not going to say extreme rules because that's WWE ECW, but hardcore rules. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. If you want to do a Canadian collision, we can call it like that too, then we can do a Canadian collision match, so I could just slap them around. Because again, I am a legend in that field. I have wrestled a lot of hardcore legends that I have dominated, or they, said there's times they dominated me, but my track record oversees that, here and there. But hey, I'm excited for that, because now that is in my neck of the woods, so Big Daddy Area is just going to get dipped in milk, twist them open.
Well, I admire your confidence, and you're a veteran.
Don't admire my confidence.
No
Relish
doubt.
my confidence, bro, because I know it's a fact that I'm going to whip his ass.
Well, that remains to be seen. I think once you are standing face to face with Big Daddy D Roy in the ring, you'll be perhaps considering some of the statements that you made here. But I'm going to play this promo for you and the fans, and we'll get your reaction right after.
Great North Wrestling. Big Daddy D-Roy here, baby. And we're back. June the 29th, when Big Daddy makes his big Napanee debut. Tickets still on sale. But Big Daddy's smiling because he's making that debut against Kingpin Medina in a hardcore title match. The Kingpin hardcore title. And Kingpin's a legend, ECW, wrestled in every square inch of the U.S., but you're coming to my territory. Big Daddy is also smiling because he has the element of surprise. See, Big Daddy hasn't been in a ton of hardcore matches, very few, but they've all been legendary, and looking to add to my repertoire. Bring a few things to the game that no one's ever seen. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be painful. But when it's all said and done, at the end of the night, when you're looking up at those big bright lights, everybody in that arena will be chanting 3 words. Who's your daddy?
So what do you think of that, Kingpin?
First of all, I wasn't even watching it. I was watching something on TikTok. But anyway, first of all, let me explain something to you. He's stuttering. Kingpin, Medina. Bro, I know I can hear it in your throat. You're quivering. You don't understand. Yeah, you're a big guy, but doesn't mean that you're going to win. You're thinking that you're just going to come into the ring, and just because I'm coming to Canada, just because it's the backyard, your neck of the woods and stuff, and you're standing there thinking that you're gonna dominate me, that's a negative, man. The thing is that I got experience, I got talent, and I got knowledge. Those are the 3 things that you're missing. And the thing is that once, and you say, I'm gonna lay there, when I look up at those lights, first of all, if I look up at the lights, your fat stomach will be blocking those lights. So I don't understand what I'm going to be looking at besides the sweat stain under that belly. But the point is, that's never going to happen, because you see this is on my shoulder. The reason why it's on my shoulder is because I beat the best. I fought the best. You know what I'm saying? I retired more men than Social Security. The fact is, you have to take this off me, and that is something that's never going to happen. So you can sit there and look in the mirror, cut your promos, get your voice deep, and say, once I get you in the ring, fuck you, come to my face, see what you can do. And once again, I'll walk out of there, the hardcore road trip champion, and you're going to be licking my boots and calling me daddy. That's my promo, baby.
Well, I think you're going to have your work cut out for you, sir.
You're stuttering too. You're stuttering too because you know that it's like, oh man, shit, I got to put this guy over. So
no,
let me think.
Actually, I've seen him work, and that's a big man to be trying to move.
The buffet line doesn't mean that you seen him work a spoon and a fork. That's the only thing you seen him work. But he hasn't been in there with me. When he loses breath and he needs an asthma pump and he needs one of those CPAP machines and stuff like that when he goes home, then you're gonna realize, damn, he had his money cut out for him. So just because he's big doesn't mean he has it, man. So Big Daddy Oreo, if you, like I said, bring it, cut all the promos you want, feel as confident as you want. But at the end of the day, bro, Kingpin, King of the Street, is gonna take you out. It is what it is, baby.
Well, I'm looking forward to that match, being a wrestling historian myself. The first time in over 10 years that title has been defended. We're going to right some wrongs historically with what happened in the last Hardcore Road Trip show, but I think it could be a letdown for the fans of the Kingpin when that title could be going elsewhere. So we'll be looking forward to that as one of our co-main events. But before I mention the where you can get tickets, we're going to have them at the door, and we're going to have them at ticketweb.ca. They're on sale now. Limited ringside seating available, so check that out right away. The poster is going to be out next week. We're going to be really kicking into high gear for the show. I want to say something yet again to Renee Dupree. Renee, you're a successful podcaster now. You're in the throes of a big comeback. You're a really big deal. You are in a career renaissance. You're on the lips of many in the wrestling world, but you're also on my lips because of what you did in November at the Renfrew Reckoning. I haven't forgotten. You can cuss me. You took me out of my other job for weeks because I was suffering from those effects. And if you think that I'm some person that's just going to let that go and forget about it, well, you're wrong. I keep saying, pal, that I got surprises for you. And boy, do I have surprises for you. You're going to find out really soon. You want that Canadian title? You want that belt back that you so proudly held years ago? Well, you're going to have to earn it, son. And I'm going to make sure that you earn it. So stay tuned, Renee. I know you watch these shows. I know you're listening. I've got some clarification coming your way, and you're not going to like it, but you're going to have to live with it. So back to where fans can grab tickets for that, ticketweb.ca, and we'll also have them at the door. But we're going to have two huge main events and a lot of other excellent wrestling to follow or proceed in the card, including women's action and some great folks that are going to be coming in from Paul Roma and Mario Mancini's school called Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling in Connecticut. We're excited to be starting a partnership with them. We've got a lot planned for this show. It will be the first time that Napanee has seen quality pro wrestling, and I underscore quality, in quite a long time. So it's not going to be something that you'll be disappointed in, and you should get your tickets and make plans to be there. June the 29th. See, you're making me off my game too with all your comments. June the 29th, Napanee, Ontario. Napanee Schools Out Slam. Kingpin, your final thoughts on participation in that card. Are you shining that belt up real nice so it looks good in case you have to provide it to Big Daddy D-Roy?
Well, first of all, the show is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be jam-packed with action. There's going to be a lot of fans there. It's going to be a lot of talent there. You're going to get your money's worth. You're going to experience like the most energetic, the most electrifying show in Napanee's history. But the thing is, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to shine it up because I like shiny things coming back to me when I put it around my waist. And also, it's just, the thing is that the point is, I'm ready. This is going to be a walk in the park. He knows it. He's nervous. He's stuttering. You're stuttering. Everybody's stuttering because they know that once again, I'm going to be still the Hardcore Road Trip champion, and that is Kingpin approved, baby.
Well, again, that remains to be seen. Two big main events of which you're half. And stay tuned, fans, for updates on the show as the weeks roll out, including what I have in store for Rene Dupree. But now, back to the topic of this particular podcast. Your thoughts personally on Paul Heyman being inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame. But before I get to that from you, I'll just run down a few of his career highlights. He decided that he wanted to work in the business in a very young age. He started off as a photographer and was able to sell his work. Then he ended up becoming part of the Titan Sports photographers that were approved, and had that famous picture in the magazines with him, Albano, and Blassie. Do you remember that when he was about 15?
I'm just trying to think. I thought it was a Grand Wizard, but I could be wrong.
Sorry. Yes, you're right. Lou Albano, Fred Blassie, and the Grand Wizard. Yes. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, of course. It just because I remember seeing it and it was in my head. I'm like, I thought the Grand Wizard was in there, but yeah, I remember that for sure.
Yes, the wise men that he studied under, and then he did more photography work. He was involved in Studio 54 as a photographer, and got involved with Dusty Rhodes in terms of managing, and worked the independents in the Northeast before becoming involved in championship wrestling from Florida, where he joined forces with Kevin Sullivan, Humperdinck, and they gave him the name Paulie Dangerously at the time because of his resemblance to a character in the movie Johnny Dangerously from Michael Keaton. Were you aware of that?
That I didn't know. I didn't know if that was. I mean, I remember that movie. That was with Joe Piscopo, and I still remember that movie. It was an old, like, 30s mobster movie comedy. Yes. So I remember it because I used to watch it a lot. So it was a good movie, but I didn't know that it was associated with Paul was associated to that movie, connected.
Yes, and I think he started to come into prominence when he moved to Continental and Memphis, and he was managing Tommy Rich and Austin Idol in a feud with Jerry Lawler that culminated in a big cage match there in the Mid-South Coliseum. Then he moved over to the AWA, where he managed the original Midnight Express of Condrey and Rose, and got a lot of publicity due to that television contract that they had with ESPN. Do you remember that stage of his career?
Dude, I remember all the stages of his career, man. He was a pinnacle. Like I said, the cordless phone gimmick. I mean, I remember. It's just like I said. He is a man that's had his finger on in society, and everybody's seen him. You know what I mean? Especially when I was a kid in junior high school. So yeah, I mean, I seen him all the time. I mean, the guy is talented. Managed
Condrey and Rose and adorable Adrian Adonis after he left WWF in '87.
Yeah.
Then was brought into Jim Crockett Promotions with the original Midnight Express again, and they had that tremendous feud with Jim Cornette's Midnight Express. Do you remember when they stormed the set and Cornette bled all over his white suit after getting smacked with the cordless phone, the big brick?
Vaguely. Like I said, it's been so long ago, but I do remember something like that.
And then ended up with Condrey leaving, taking over the Samoan SWAT team, got involved in the television side, was part of or led the Dangerous Alliance stable with those Hall of Famers as well. Ended up having some issues with Bill Watts when he was the booker. He was terminated, filed a lawsuit against WCW for wrongful dismissal. He got an out-of-court settlement, but part of that, I guess that money led to start ECW, Eastern Championship Wrestling, and then ECW, where of course you had interactions with him, which we'll talk about. ECW folds, came over to WWE, was a television commentator again with Jim Ross, led the part of the Invasion angle, and then of course got involved with Brock Lesnar, and up to today, and actually this past Monday, his managerial, or what does he call it, advocate, representative,
I'm the advocate
for Roman Reigns, and cut quite an interesting promo this past Monday with Cody Rhodes laying down the challenge for SmackDown on Friday. So he's an integral part of that presentation, and has been for a number of years, be it with Lesnar or the Bloodline deal. But I want to talk about when you first, we probably touched on aspects of this in the past, but when you first were contacted to become involved with ECW and you first met Paul.
I mean, I first met Paul, like I said, it was in Philadelphia, and I was heading down to I was invited down by Devon. I was going to go down there with a friend of mine to just hang out. I brought my bag, and then they were doing some, not tryouts, but workouts in the ring at the ECW arena. And Devon told me to just bring my stuff and, get in there, which I did. And he told me to get in there and work out. And I had a 5-minute, 6-minute match with Guido, and it was back and forth. And then after that, when I got back to the locker room through the curtain, that's when Paul, told me to come to him, and he was, "Hey kid, I like what I saw." And he just paused, and he was just like, "Hey, just stick around." And I'm like, "Oh, stick around." And he goes, "Yeah, just stick around, kid." And then that's when I went to Devon and said, "Hey, D, man, I don't know what that means. Paul just told me just to stick around." And he goes, "Angel, Paul told you to stick around. And I said, "Yeah, but D, I don't understand." He goes, "Angel, trust me, just stick around." And that's how, my first interaction with Paul was, so, and I stuck around, as long as you stick around, I mean, yeah, I was struggling, during that time, because again, I was working, then I lost my job, and then I had to talk to Devon, and then that's how I got on Ring Crew, just to make some type of money. So yeah, so I was only making $75 a day at that time.
Wow.
So 3 days shot, 2 days shot, that's $75. That's all. Yeah. They paid for hotel and all that stuff, but yeah, I was living on a budget, so.
So when, after that initial thing, when he told you he liked what he saw, etc., what was the process? You were on the Ring Crew. What was the process that Paul put in place for you to start wrestling?
Well, no, nothing really, man. Like I said, before Ring Crew, I was just showing up. I was just going to shows. And one moment they asked me to step in and be under a hood, like black jeans, black shirt. I had a black Carhartt jacket, some monster Halloween mask with a hoodie, and it was some angle with New Jack, because I was portraying, because I was the same height as Mustafa. So they were like, "Yeah, we pretend it's Mustafa." So I had to come out in that outfit and pretend I was Mustafa. Didn't have to do anything special to pretend I was him, but the idea was that was him behind the mask. So I did that, and then another time I did a run out, a breakup. It was Jack Victory and Just Incredible, and I only remember that because Jack Victory punched me in the mouth. So real hard, so I didn't have to sell it. So I remember that. And then little by little, it was just little matches. I had a match with Spike, and then I had a match with Tommy Rogers. I got the video of that. So I was being used as openers, like opening curtain jerking. But then I got on Ring Crew when I was, like I need the money and stuff. And then that's when things were going. And I think I was getting like $75 for the Ring Crew and $75 to wrestle when I finally started wrestling.
And so, when did Paul share with you that he figured you in for at least a mid-card upper role?
I think it was in Michigan. Don't quote me on it, but I think I got the video of it, but I just don't know where town it is in. But I gotta, maybe I'll look at the comments on YouTube. I'll send you the video. But yeah, it was, he just came into the locker room and one day and pulled me and DeVito to the side, and it was him and Tommy, and they said, "Hey, we have this idea. Have you ever saw The Wanderers?" And I said, "Yeah, a long time ago when I was a kid." And he's like, "Yeah, well, there was a gang in there called the Baldies. There used to be a gang called the Fordham Baldies back in the days. So we're thinking about, starting this group called the Baldies, and it'd be you and DeVito. Right now we're thinking, PN News. I didn't even mention who was going to be in it. It was just an idea, because later we found out that, like, he goes, hey, no matter who comes into, this is Tommy telling us, he goes, no matter who comes in, into the group, you and DeVito are always going to be the constant members. So, it's just like the Four Horsemen was always, everybody was interchangeable, not all of them, but you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
But it was always Ric Flair, and and Arn Anderson, but the rest, everybody, like, Barry Windham and all them coming in and stuff, and then Lex Luger, stuff like that. But it was like that. So yeah, I mean, he just brought it up, and we just, like, I mean, we didn't say no or yes, meaning, like, we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot, like, oh, I don't like it. I mean, no, sound good. We just, oh yeah, great, which we were excited. So I mean, Paul was a very, was hands-on with development of every talent that was in there, coming up with every gimmick, every idea, and also to really push it to the moon, to sell it to the fans.
Can you confirm or deny ATF Media's comment here? I'll pull it up on the screen. He heard that Paul Heyman is bald due to being punched by Hands of Stone Ronnie Garvin.
How the hell that happened? What do you mean, like he punched him so hard that his hair fell out?
I think he's joking.
I know. I'm just saying.
Hands of Stone Ronnie Garvin.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, he got punched so hard that his hair fell out.
Something like that.
No.
So the Baldies are together, and Paul is hands on in that. What did he say to you after the faction got going? Were you told, we're gonna push you here, give you the belts, give you a run, feud you with, all the great opponents that you had? Like, how did that all come together?
I mean, you, like, to win the title, like, if you ever brought that up, yeah, it was going to be me and DeVito versus the story. Again, this is the story that we heard, that we were going to beat Danny Doran and Roadkill for the titles, because if you watch the last pay-per-view, when the Baldies come out and we start fighting Steve Corino and Justin Credible, and we fought to the back. I think it was one of the Massacre on 34th Street pay-per-view, I think it was, and we're fighting to the back. Well, that was going to be, at the time, was going to be the New Impact Players, and then we would won the title from Danny and Roadkill, and then we were going to have an angle with Corino and Justin Credible, and apparently lose the straps to that, which would have been fine. But I'm just saying that was a story that was going to happen.
Were you ever witness to any of the? I know you saw Beyond the Mat and that famous, inspirational Jim Jones promo that he cut for everyone in the back. The us versus them deal and all the motivational speeches. How many of those did you take in back in the day?
He just had a lot of speeches, man. And Paul had a very, he was good with his words. He was, he knew how to rally the troops when it came down to, like, when guys were, like, depressed. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There was times, man. I remember I went up to Paul and literally was like bawling. And the reason I was bawling is because I was struggling with money. My wife was gonna leave me. She was, like, not having it. I was blowing more money than bringing home, and that was causing some issues at the house. So I had to pull Paul to the
would, right?
Yeah, so I pulled Paul to the side, and I literally were like, Paul, dude, I'm just struggling. It's hard for me to talk to you about this. And I was, like, in tears, and he was like, hey man, don't worry, I got you. And he goes, we'll bump up your pay. So I mean, and he bumped up my pay. So, and then also he was when I was sitting on the steps, I remember it was during that Mike Awesome, he had to drop the strap to Taz, and
Talked about that with Jim Molyneux last week. Really interesting story. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was sitting in the back on the stairs, and Paul walked down the stairs past me, and he just stopped for whatever reason. Turned, he goes, "Hey, he did that thinking like, hey, I want to sit down with you. Remind me, because I really want to get you signed under a contract." And I'm like, "Oh shit," and I was, holy crap. And then, but we never was able to sit down to get that contract going. So, but I remember that kind of, like, I was like, holy contract. I was like, my heart just like sank, of happiness. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, this is it. Yeah. Caviar and champagne wishes.
Robin Leach.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, man, like I said, he really he gives you a speech. He really tells you it's going to be okay. You just sit there and like I said, he just knows how to motivate you. And once he motivates you, man, you just do anything for him.
Once people's checks started to bounce, and I take it yours, were you shorted money, or I think back to all the comments Shane Douglas has made over the years that he is owed somewhere around 70 grand or more with interest, etc. But did yours bounce? And when they started to bounce, did you find the locker room still had that faith because of how convincing Paul was with things?
The thing is this: out of all the people that gave me an opportunity, it was Paul. And Paul was the one that saw that I had talent. Paul was the one that gave me the opportunity to grow. Paul was the one that sat me down and gave me advice how to cut promos. Paul was the one that stood by me when I was having marital problems. Paul was the one that, paid for a hotel room for me, gave me cash, and said, "Don't worry about it." And it was like I think the room was like $300 because I had to drop off a friend at the Marriott Courtyard Marriott because Paul was there and it was a friend. So I dropped them off, and instead of me driving back, he was like, "Hey man, here, get yourself a room," and he paid for my hotel room. So, I mean, the loyalty that I had for Paul, yeah, I was upset. Yeah, the checks bounced. Yeah, but that's just a normal reaction anybody's gonna have. But the thing is that when I was like, I'm gonna stick by him, man, because I remember when we had that meeting, and that was at a Massacre 34th Street over there at the Hammerstein Ballroom, that Karina was holding the title up for, like, "Hey man, you better pay me, or I'm gonna drop the belt on the Indies," and everybody was online to talk to Paul, and I just didn't want to be one of those guys. So when I went in there, I said, "Hey, Paul, just want to let you know I'm not here to, ruffle your feathers. Everybody's coming in here to bitch and moan and all this stuff. I just want to let you know I'm going to ride this ship until it sinks. I want you to know that I'm a soldier. You gave me my shot. Nobody else has given me. So I just wanted to let you know I'm going to ride or die with you." And he appreciated, gave me a hug, and we called it good. So, yeah, it was loyalty. I'm a loyal dude, man.
What were your thoughts when it was everybody knows that ECW got a raw deal with the Nashville network, and in hindsight things could have been probably turned out differently without going to them right away, because I think you have this opinion too. They really did more harm than good in the long run. But what were your thoughts when the rumor was going around that he was off negotiating a new TV deal? He had somebody or some network in the hopper, etc. And then next thing you know, he's on Raw. How did you take that?
I mean, I took it to heart. I took it like shit. I was upset, more like disappointed. But again, that's just part of anybody's reaction. I mean, Paul did what he had to do, man. I mean, he has to look out for him and his family. Yeah, everybody's mad. Yeah, I crack jokes about the bounce check, but that's just me cracking jokes. I owe him a lot. I appreciate him for giving me the opportunity. Yeah, at that time I wanted to, like, oh man, motherfucker. But but that's just normal human reaction. But again, when I saw him on Raw, yeah, I was like, fuck, But that meant it was over. That meant it was like, this is it. It's the end. So But he will always know that I was the one that always wrote. I never gave him problems. I never had a drug issue, never had a drinking problem. I never had anybody come up to him and tell him, "Hey, Angel was passed out in the locker room" or anything. I was just there to wrestle, and that was what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever stay in communication with him? Not about the funds owed, but potentially him, because I've heard from other ECW guys that weren't brought into WWE that he had indicated that in lieu of some payments, he would make some introductions to talent relations and potentially get tryouts for guys and all that sort of thing. Were you ever approached about that?
When we went to Madison Square Garden, I was there to meet Victor Quinones, and I think if I remember, Paul put in a good word for me to wrestle down for IWA. So, because at the time, you got to remember, man, WCW folded, ECW folded. There was just too much talent, man. There was too much talent, and I wasn't one of the top guys. You know, the Lex Lugers, the Stings. You know, I was just, co-main event. You know what I mean? Just not the curtain jerk, but mid card or a little higher in the mid card. But yeah, I didn't. He didn't. He told me like, "Hey man, I'm happy for you. I'm able to talk to Victor to try to get you down to Puerto Rico." So he put in a good word for me with that. But I mean, story was that I was supposed to be the bodyguard for the Abdullah Singh, I think his name was. The Arabian gimmick when September 11th happened.
Muhammad Hassan?
Yeah, okay. Muhammad Hassan. The story was that we had cell phones, but we didn't have social media and all that stuff. So after I left Puerto Rico, I was just kind of burnt out, and they were looking for somebody to do a bodyguard gimmick for him, and that my name was thrown around, but they couldn't find me, and that's because of Paul. I heard Paul was putting the word in for me.
Mm. So, without going blow by blow through his managing career or advocacy career, whatever you want to call it, in WWE, do you think, aside from all his accomplishments prior to that, WCW and ECW, etc., that that body of work alone would merit a Hall of Fame induction based on whatever criteria that is that we talked about earlier? But do you think he really hit his stride in terms of being a personality on camera in WWE?
Paul was a great manager. Paul was like a Jim Cornette. He is a staple in the business. Everybody's going to remember the Dangerous Alliance. Everybody's going to remember Paul Heyman. He was commentary. He was behind the scenes. The guy is just, his words are just, the way he cuts promos is just keeps you hooked when you watch TV. The guy is well deserving for a heavyweight title, Hall of Fame induction. It's no words can describe how happy I am for him. Like I said, I wished him congratulations on Facebook. He wished me a happy birthday. He didn't have to, you know what I mean? So, the man deserved that the accolades, the applause, and I'm really, really happy for him, well deserved.
Yeah, it seems that, some of the more, and we're talking 10, 15 years ago, some of the more vocal detractors, even they are giving the man his due, without dwelling too much on the fact that they weren't compensated to the degree that they had coming to them. So I think that if
everybody got controversy, you know what I mean? Everybody has some type of not a skeleton, but just some drama, some issue, that's, like you said, Ole Anderson, I heard he was a dick, and Dusty Rhodes and stories, there's always something, but it doesn't take away what they gave to the business. It's just a little hiccup in the business, and it happened. So you can't hold that against them.
Well, again, I certainly, without even if there were objective criteria, I think Paul Heyman would be a lock for that. I personally enjoyed his work over the years, and think it'll be. And I think he's main eventing the ceremony, so it'll certainly be something to watch.
No, absolutely, man. I mean, hopefully I'll be able to watch it. If not, I'll catch the rerun. Knowing me, I probably won't watch the whole thing. I'll just probably watch his induction and then just change the channel. But again, man, again, well deserved. You know, my hat's off to him.
Well, for our next show, a fan on social media, given the fact that WrestleMania, we're in WrestleMania season, and it's fast approaching, and I got to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of Cody Rhodes, but they're really making this interesting with the tag match night 1 and then the title shot night 2. So that's something I'm definitely going to go out of my way to watch. But it was suggested that we run down our personal favorite WrestleMania moments and matches, and I've been to, let me see, 1, 2, 3 WrestleManias. So last one being 23 in Ford Field that I thought was
I've been to
really
0.
excellent. You've been to 0.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about that shit.
You're not a mark like me, right?
I ain't paying that type of. I'm not paying fucking Canadian dollars to this is too much money, man. I don't pay for like events like that. I like to hold on to my money. If I get in for free, then there's a different story.
Well, even 23 was reasonable price, but now it's gone through the roof, and I would agree. I'd be hard pressed to.
How much is it now?
Oh, you know what? I've heard so many. My partner over on Cheap Heat Productions, Morris Shorthall in Ireland, was at one point considering coming over for the events around WrestleMania week and Philly and the shows themselves, and it was obscene. It was, last I heard, $1,400 for. I don't even think that's the ringside. I could be wrong, but I know it's like astronomical.
I just don't see it, man. I can't see myself dropping that much money for a concert. I heard stories like $5,000, like the Super Bowl, man. I heard it was like 30,000. Nah, man. It's just, I can't. No. I work hard for that money, and just to sit there to watch something that I'm not contributing to besides the revenue, but then I'm okay with it. I'd rather watch it on Peacock, and I'm already paying a subscription for it, so I'll see it for free.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there, but I think we'll run down our favorite respective WrestleMania moments and matches, in addition to updating everything else that we have going on. But once again, I want to shout out the good folks at AEW. And if you're watching this on March 19th, tomorrow, the Hannibal TV will have coverage of the Super Show, Dynamite and Rampage from Toronto. Thanks to the AEW media folks who have allowed us to do that. And if you see me hanging around there, fans, please come up and say hello, and we'll get your thoughts and opinions on the show. But that is it for this particular edition of Shooting from the Hip. I'll give you final thoughts. Kingpin, are you again holding on to that belt really tight? Are you sleeping with it? Are you taking it with you to work, to the grocery store, because you realize you could?
I don't have to. Look, man, you could sit there and chip your teeth and say, "Oh, I'm holding it, hugging it, kissing it, licking it." The fact is, look, you could even bring Big Daddy Oreo to the show, and I'll stop him in his tracks, because the thing is that this guy thinks that he has something that makes him the most greatest wrestler of all time. That he's just, because he's Big Daddy, that's something special, and it's not, dude. I mean, there's more to it to be heavyweight champion, and just because you're big doesn't mean you're gonna have this like this hands-on type of like breach that you're gonna beat me. So look, you could dream about it, you could think about it. The fact is, I'm coming home with the title, so I don't have to sleep with it. I don't have to shower with it. It's right there by my desk, and and it's gonna still be around my waist. So it is what it is.
Well, again, excellent match. I'm looking forward to that one for sure, and I know the fans are. And we're going to have many more announcements for the great card upcoming June 29th, Napanee, Ontario. Schools Out Slam. Go to ticketweb.ca and get hooked up before they're gone. Angel, I want to just thank you for your participation today, your thoughts, your personal thoughts on Mr. Heyman, and I look forward to our next WrestleMania episode to be announced in terms of time frame. And there we go. 2 run-ins. I can't top that. So fans, thanks for tuning in today to this edition of Shooting from the Hip, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please help me out and like this video, then click the subscribe and get notifications buttons so you don't miss any of my latest